Hello everybody and welcome to today's news video. This is the news. I don't have Wilborn's panache, so I'm not going to say it like he does. Today it's myself, it's Michael Hamflett, is the lesser spotted World Culture broadcasting team here on this bank holiday Monday. We've got all kinds of stuff to get through today. I'm going to tell you when we can expect to see Brock Lesnar back on WWE TV. I'm going to tell you the real reason that Jeff Hardy is about to get a massive push in WWE, and I'm going to tell you all about, among other things, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch's wedding for some reason. But first of all, we've got to cover something that went down over the weekend. It's not something that we're going to go in great depth onto here because we will talk about it on the Raw preview later on. We also spoke about this on Saturday's news video as well. But over the weekend, it was revealed that somebody within WWE, a broadcaster, not a wrestler, tested positive as part of the ongoing global situation, likely during night 2 of the WrestleMania tapings. Now, despite this, Dave Meltzer says that WWE aren't shutting down. There's a bit of pressure there from the networks, who are contractually entitled to 49 live shows out of 52 per year. They're going to keep on rolling. Again, we're going to talk about this a bit later on, but it's just something we have to mention. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of that, join us later today. But, you know, Raw's going live tonight. They're continuing live going forward. But one guy who won't be on Raw tonight is Brock Lesnar. What a goddamn transition that was.
Smooth.
Very smooth. Like the top of my head. Update from PW Insider on Brock. They are speculating, point that out, speculating that Brock Lesnar won't return to WWE programming until the current situation eases off, everything returns to normal, and he doesn't have to worry about traveling from his Canadian home down to Orlando, back and forth, live tapings. A big chaotic situation for him, and this probably suits him quite well. Brock Lesnar strikes me as the kind of guy who spends most of his time in self-isolation in his little Canadian village with his wife anyway, so either way, what do you think they're going to do with Brock when he gets back on television, Michael Hamflett?
It's made me think his new nickname should just be the ongoing global situation. I think that suits him perfectly. It's, to be honest, this is perfect all ends up because it's protection of someone's health, and we probably need a bit more of that in pro wrestling in general. And when Brock's around, he just casts a shadow over everybody else, not least the last person that he's faced. We saw this with Seth Rollins last year. The second he had that briefcase, it was just a matter of time. The clock was ticking on Seth's run. And as great as Drew looks with that belt, and as great as this push has been, the same would be with him all over again. The lessons we always learn from Brock is that less is so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big Brock Lesnar mark. I'm not gonna hide that. I never do. But it'd certainly be beneficial for Drew to be able to grow into his role as the champion and enjoy this reign without that big bloody purple shadow looming over him. So more on that as it develops, but you know, with Donald Trump reckoning that fans won't be able to return to arenas until like September, Brock's going to be gone a while, although we should note that Donald Trump's not a scientist or a doctor. And you know, this thing changes every single day. So yeah. Lord knows when we'll see Brock again. A guy that we will be seeing a lot of over the coming weeks and months is Jeff Hardy, who is in line for a big push after returning to WWE. His last match, I think it was the 13th of March episode of SmackDown, beat Baron Corbin on his comeback night. It lasted 2.5 minutes. It's pretty comprehensive. But this week on SmackDown, we got a really cool vignette, courtesy of WWE 24. Jeff kind of framed as this big returning star with a story you want to invest in. Now, Paul Davis of WrestlingNews.co has come through with a new report saying that, among other reasons, Vince McMahon primarily wants to push Jeff because he wants to show how well he's going to be treated in WWE. He wants to show him that this is the best place for him, which is particularly important in the wake of his brother Matt going to AEW. Now, there are other things as well. It's noted in the article that Vince has also been impressed with Jeff's determination to get back on track. 2019, of course, a very turbulent and hard year for Jeff. Personal problems, injury problems. Think of a problem. He probably had it that year, but he's back. He's going to be doing big things. What do you reckon of this?
I mean, obviously there's a little thin layer of cynicism with regards to Matt Hardy's move to AEW, but genuinely, I think a lot of this would have happened with or without Matt in any organisation. Vince McMahon never forgets who made him money and who was a star, and Jeff Hardy, as a bona fide single star, was a money-drawing guy for him. That 2008-2009 period ultimately proved a lot of doubters right in the fact that maybe his personal life wasn't best on track to carry the company and carry the title at the time, but they went with him and he appeared to work. It was only other problems that got in the way and sent him down to TNA, and again, kind of like had him on a bit of a like hodgepodge of a track for all that time. He's a guy, and Vince McMahon will give chances to guys that have made him money in the past. He is a guy that has deserved several chances. When the Hardy Boys came back, it felt like a matter of time before A, we would get to Broken Matt Hardy, and B, we would get to Jeff Hardy, massive single star again. The journey that both of them are taking is probably not one that we would have predicted, but I'm not terribly surprised that we're at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think it was the 2018 house show we were at. We got to see him live. Yeah. You forget how over that guy is, even years after his supposed peak. People still love Jeff Hardy, man, and they're going to cash in on that. It's a good move all around that makes sense across the board. It
is astonishing that when you look at those TLC matches in 2001, obviously discounting Edge's recent return, it was Jeff Hardy, that was working the most dates in 2018, 2019 out of all of them. How his body has somehow survived the things he's put himself through. They might as well give him one last go.
He's basically Lazarus, isn't he? Let's move over. Let's talk about Ronda Rousey. Again, this is something we spoke about over the weekend, so we're not going to go too in depth into it, but we do have some new information from Dave Meltzer as part of the his daily update series on Figure 4 Online, talking about all the tweets she's made, all the rabble she has roused, all the people she has annoyed, including Nia Jax and Lana and Alexa Bliss and various people over the weekend. It's not building to an immediate return. That's probably the question that you were wondering when all this emerged, dear viewer. It's not, apparently. Dave says that he expects Ronda to be back in the WWE ring eventually and expects her to even compete at WrestleMania 37 next year in Hollywood. But for now, Kind of interesting, this, because it kind of suggests that she's just done this to just be a bit of a troll. She tweeted the following over the weekend after kind of lighting a grenade and just leaving it in a room and closing the door. She had tweeted the good night, rowdy ones and jabroni marks of how to life that don't know way to work when you work a work and work yourself into a shoot marks, which is of course a callback to the classic Hulk Hogan tweet of 2011, the great meme itself. This Rousey situation is so strange, isn't it, man? Like, is it a work? Is it a shoot? I don't know either way, but it sure is entertaining.
I mean, it's proof to me yet again that she is still the best worker in that division, even when she's not in it. She might not be working for right now, but she's working for another day. The idea, I think, that people feel that they have to put this into one thing or another when it's clearly a combination of the two is what makes this all so magic. Ronda is simultaneously laying loads of groundwork for the day that she returns, and what a welcome return that will be. And yet, just going into business for herself to keep her name in the conversation. You know, it makes total sense, especially in these times where people have got a thirst for new content that isn't wrestling in an empty arena. They're looking for things to talk about and things to be interested in. Why would Ronda Rousey not keep herself at the forefront? Not least when she knows, and a sizable portion of the fan base know, that there's so much money on the table with another Ronda Rousey WWE run. Why not set up feuds with Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss? Why not set up a goddamn squash with Lana? Because that's all that'll happen if them two come together. Like, this is awesome. Ronda's awesome, and she's badly missed, in my opinion. I know that's not necessarily the consensus sometimes amongst wrestling fans, but she's yet again proven her worth to me here.
Yeah, I totally agree. My favorite part of all of this is Nia Jax challenging her to a real fight. She's a former UFC champion, you silly sausage. Anyway,
this is Bart Gunn and Butter Bean. She's got one punch in her that we know. After that, it's game over.
I think Ronda might be a little bit more capable than Bart Gunn, at least. But we'll... Shayna Baszler was the Billy of that friendship again. The next story revolves around the interim Cruiserweight title tournament. Whatever the full title of that thing is going on in NXT at the moment. We've got one notable omission here. It's Lio Rush. He took to Twitter over the weekend when the brackets were announced and he wasn't in them, and he tweeted the following: "Is this still April Fools? No man of the hour, no 25-year-old piece of gold, no Versace doctor, former Cruiserweight champion, no Lio MF Rush." He tweeted again a few minutes later saying, "No game, no toy, no Cruiserweight Championship tournament. WWE, y'all want to tell me something?" So I think he's got a point, right? Look at the lineup of this tournament. Jake Atlas is in there. Jake Atlas's NXT debut was a squash loss. El Hijo del Fantasma's in there. Hasn't debuted officially yet. Who else is in there? Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick doesn't wrestle. His last singles match was back in July 2019, I want to say. So It's a weird lineup. Again, it's probably a combination of, working and a little bit of shooting, but Leo's had his troubles with the company in 2019. I like Lio Rush a lot. I think he's a tremendous performer. And yeah, I mean, he should be in that goddamn tournament, right?
Yeah, he's got a right to be annoyed here. I mean, Phantasma, I don't think he's yet to appear on television unless he's the rumoured guy putting people in the back of a truck in the Performance Centre car park. But I will say, I think this is going to be a blessing in disguise for Lio Rush. He was the guy carrying the can in that completely rejuvenated and reinvented Cruiserweight division last year at the back end, sort of with NXT, just banger after banger after banger in that league. It was awesome. But this interim tournament is pretty cute, I think, on NXT's part. It's a UFC principle. You create 2 champions and then you have a dream match. But who knows when any of this is going to take place? Likelihood in empty arenas. Let the man of the hour have the crowd and have the match when we've got one champion again and one big match. It kind of creates a perfect takeover story in the world where there's butts in seats again. Yeah. Like, I don't want to see Cruiserweight Bangers take place in that empty gym and hear the whirring of that hand fan instead of the massive pops of the crowd. So Lio Rush missing this now might suck, but long term, I think he's going to feel the benefit of it. I genuinely do, because he's sort of too good to be denied until they outright let him go.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a tremendous performer. Maybe the big spotlight awaits for him after the tournament, like you've said. Last couple of stories here. We'll breeze through these because there's honestly not a lot of meat on these bones, but they're worth talking about regardless. Chris Jericho, commentary last week. Tremendous job, I think most people would agree. Highlight of the Dynamite show. He spoke about potentially doing commentary again. And by the way, he's doing commentary on Dynamite this week as well with Tony Schiavone. That'll be fun. But he spoke about this as a potential career move after he hangs up his boots on Facebook Live over the weekend. And he said he would absolutely love to do it full time. He said he took inspiration from Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura, his 2 favourites, in crafting what he called an obnoxious heel role as a colour commentator. And he said he has always loved commentary. He would do it again. And but he did say that doing it for a whole hour or 2 hours, as Dynamite is, was a lot of hard work. So do you like this as a potential career move for Chris Jericho?
Yeah, I love it. Jericho was brilliant on Wednesday, so we now have evidence to suggest that there's nothing in wrestling he can't do. But I've never understood, if wrestlers want to do jobs in wrestling and have proven experience, why companies wouldn't take them. There are countless guys out there that, in my opinion, should be in the Performance Centre or should be agenting for AEW and aren't. So if Jericho is actively volunteering himself in this role for the future, obviously he's keeping himself in the money because he's not daft, because he's one of the greatest in that regard. But everyone with experience at something is valuable to something. So fully in support of that.
Yeah, and he's the most adaptable man who ever lived, so he'll do well at it. Final story here, Becky Lynch and Seth the Chef Rollins' wedding. They're getting married. Not for a while, though. Becky spoke to Extra.ie over the weekend, talking a little bit about their wedding plans, and said the current situation has forced them to postpone it. They've been engaged since August. They've been dating for a while longer than that. They're fortunately not an on-screen couple anymore because that wasn't great. But Becky said the following on it. Look, at the end of the day, I'm going to be with him forever. So it doesn't matter if we get married next month or next year or 2 days from now. It's all the same. But it would be better if my family and friends could be there. Obviously, that's a problem. I'm going to assume that most of Becky's family and friends live in Ireland or Europe, elsewhere in Europe. You ain't traveling to the United States anytime soon. What do you reckon?
I mean, it's a headache, that sort of thing. I feel very sad for them, and I also feel very sad for the guests that probably made an excuse not to go on the original date and will now being stuck going to the actual thing because they've used up the one excuse and said, oh, the date's changed, now we actually have to go to that thing. We've got to get them a gift. She's got a truck. What can we get somebody that's got a truck? So my sympathy is with those wedding guests that had already found a way to get out of the first date and now have to attend. Like, that is a real sucker punch. You don't need that when you think you've gotten out of a wedding. You really don't.
Yeah, man. It's like, oh, what a coincidence. My holiday has been rearranged to the rearranged your wedding. It's going to be a tough one for those people. But hey, man, sure, it'll be a beautiful ceremony. Anyway, let's talk about, let's not talk about anything. Let's answer a couple of Twitter questions. 2 for you today. First one comes courtesy of Beavosaurus. I don't know what that is, but I like it. Who asks, what do you think of NXT being shown over a week later on the network here in the UK and being shown earlier on BT? So this comes from a story over the weekend. NXT would previously be uploaded onto the network in the UK 24 hours after airing on USA Network. Now it's going to be a full week. It's going to be a week late. Question says, personally, I am reevaluating where I put my money and I'm seriously considering going all out on AEW instead. So interesting situation here. I think BT Sport, I don't have BT Sport, but I'm pretty sure I get it for free as part of my phone contract, but I'm pretty sure outside of that it costs like 20 quid a month. The network is $9.99 a month. Question of cost, Is NXT going to be worth 20 quid a month specifically to people who don't want to wait a week? What do you reckon?
I don't know. I think it's a little bit shady all this round. This was a tragic inevitability of the NXT to USA move. It was going to eventually mirror how Raw and SmackDown do it, where those don't have to pay for it, I think, even longer than a week. So you sense that this is part of an ongoing negotiation where that might actually get worse for NXT. And I think that's why WWE have kept that quiet. I don't think this is something they would have wanted to advertise had I believe it wasn't somebody asking the network Twitter account where NXT was, only to be informed this way, rather than them letting people know in an email. It's just shady business crack, you know. Ultimately, it's down to every individual person to decide what they want to do, how to spend the money. The network at the moment, I think, is still free. So WWE are probably mindful of the fact that they were going to have to make this NXT change. There's less investment in their product overall. So they're probably wanting to keep people on the hook as long as possible. But it's hard to imagine this won't have an impact. NXT, when it used to air on the network in line with, you know, like a fictional TV show would have done on a Wednesday night, that was something of a minor drawing card for a very niche selection of fans. That's exploded out to the mainstream, but what of the global audience in general? As you say, 20 quid for BT Sport is a lot if you're just paying for NXT and nothing more. I dare say there'll be more people that will have the same feelings as, was it Beaversaurus?
Beaversaurus.
Yeah, Rex himself, I think, will share the sentiment of many others in the fan base because it just seems a bit steep.
It really does, and it's, you know, a week later as well. It's kind of tough. That's kind of tough. Your enthusiasm lasts a certain while. If you're able to avoid spoilers for a full week, more power to you. A man who is incapable of getting spoiled on anything, is different. But
it does speak to both companies actually, considering that this is a Wednesday night war and all that sort of thing. With AEW's deal with ITV looking pretty shocking, and now this with NXT. The UK, which is, as we've always heard acknowledged, as a major audience, is not being well serviced by either brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Second question comes to us via a friend of the channel, Mark Gallagher, who asks, what matches are great first time around but difficult to rewatch? Now, his example here is Roderick Strong turning in New Orleans at that TakeOver event. He was disappointed to see some details left out where Roddy would still attack Undisputed Era during the match. So, I mean, man, there's so many things you could answer for this. I think a cop-out answer and an obvious answer is every Chris Benoit match in which he takes some kind of head trauma. So all of them, because he does a bloody diving headbutt, but particularly the chair shots, knowing what we do now. On a similar note, though, to not cop out, but to kind of cop out because it's a similar theme, I'm going to go Shibata Okada, Shibata's last match. Knowing that the guy came, what was he given, like a 20% chance of living Shibata after that match, is grisly stuff. It's a tremendous, excellent match, and I loved it in the moment, but I don't think I'll ever be able to watch it again properly. I tried a few months ago, and man, watching those stiff headbutts just going thud. Hard.
I don't even want to watch that segment again where he got booted in the head last year when we all thought he was coming back. Even that, I think, is a tough go around, knowing that he's not since returned to the ring. I like this question. I was originally going to go with some of the Triple H Shawn Michaels matches in 2004, but they were never great to begin with. So it's Austin Undertaker from SummerSlam 1998. Funnily enough, you mentioned a head injury because Austin gets knocked out in that. And it's a pretty tough watch after the fact because you can see him hit the deck off the Undertaker smacking his head against his chin. But really, it's because it just doesn't mesh with my memories of watching it first time around. I think I was 13, 14. The program was white hot. It was in Madison Square Garden. It was the highway to hell. It was the biggest match that probably either company could promote at the time. So the heat and the excitement and your youthful exuberance was enough to carry it over the line. And like most Austin Undertaker matches, it just does not hold up to rewatch whatsoever. As you say, there are more reasons to be uncomfortable with watching a wrestling match or things that you just don't want to see. But I just don't like the fact that I don't want to sit through two legends, two stars at the height of their fame going through the motions. It's just a real grisly and drab watch. It shouldn't be both those things at the same time, and it is.
Yeah, there's loads of ways you can go with a question like that. You might even go with one where, like, the style has just moved on, like the Michinoku Pro Tag from Barely Legal, right? All-time classic spot fest. But today, when matches like that pretty much happen every single month, kind of loses its appeal. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, let us know down in the comment section below. What matches did you love on the first viewing that are really tough to watch now, or even on the second viewing? Let us know, get some discussion going. But thank you for joining us today. We love you very much. Thank you. Follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Send us your Twitter questions, hashtag this is the news. You can follow Michael Hamflet on Twitter at
Michael Hamflet.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for H. Goodbye.